Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Inglaterra. Hoy el tema es optimizar, optimizar nuestras palabras y no desperdiciar palabras. So the theme of today is optimize, and particularly don't waste words. That's the theme of the day. So why do we say that? Don't waste words. Well, if we think about it, we're doing this in our second language. Conversations we're going to have, we need to save our energy. Not just our physical energy, but also our mental energy. It's very tiring if we're trying to concentrate on too much at one go. So rather than trying to memorize huge amounts of vocabulary for particular situations, I would suggest you might find it a little easier if we try and optimize some phrases or some questions that you can use in particular conversations. So this would be something like, rather than trying to think of all of the vocabulary or your ideal speech in totality for a particular conversation, think about the key words you would need, just the key words, and trust yourself that you can use those key words to get you through the conversation. This is another one we touched on in an earlier video when we were talking about active listening. So really, rather than trying to translate everything you're hearing, particularly if there's a conversation with lots of people talking more or less at once, just listen out for key words. It's a lot less energy you need to expend doing that. You'll have more energy then to help you when it's your turn to speak. You want to ask your own questions or answer them. So rather than trying to translate everything people are saying, just listen out for key words so you know that, okay, look, I know what we're talking about, and then particularly you'll know when it's maybe time for you to say something or ask a question, because you know now, okay, now I know really this is time for me to speak. So focusing on key words rather than long memorized chunks of dialogue. But then also, while we are in the conversation, we're going to show ways that we are listening, because really we want to show that we've got some kind of connection. We're showing some kind of empathy with the person who's talking to us or we're talking to get that connection, because really we're trying to get them to help us finish the conversation. And if we look at it like that, if we look at it more like, I'm trying to get this person to help me with the conversation, rather than it being more of a combative thing, we're trying to reach empathy and an understanding with them, the conversation is going to go smoother. So we use phrases like, oh, I see, to help them move the conversation along. We're encouraging them to continue talking, because that gives us more chance to listen and get a better understanding of what's really happening. We can summarize what we've heard them say. So really we're showing that I was listening and I understood you said this. So something like, okay, so what you're saying is, and then say what you heard them say, or I understand that you're telling me this happened, or I understand that you're feeling this. So again, you're showing that you understood what they were talking to you about. And then the key point at this point, we can intervene by asking them a question to start to move the conversation, perhaps if we need a particular answer. So we ask them something nice like, can I ask you a question? Which is a really nice way of politely stopping them speaking, letting you have a go to check again that you're going in the right direction with this conversation. And we can ask them something for clarification, which is good, because then we get them to basically rephrase what they've been saying if it's not really clear. So we can interrupt with something nice like, well, I'm sorry, can I ask you a question? When you were just talking about that topic, you said blah, blah, blah. Did you mean this? Or when you said that, I understood that this happened. Is that right? And if we use that phrase, is that right? We're asking them to come back to us and say, yes, that's right. And then we're going to make a lot of connection with them, because now we are agreeing with them. They know that we have understood exactly what they were saying. So don't be shy about asking for clarification. It's very important. The last thing we want to do is think we've understood the conversation, go off on a whole tangent with them, and then it's clear that no, that wasn't what we meant. So be prepared to intervene early, but again, don't waste your words. You don't have to say lots of things to do that. Rely on the other person explaining that to you, so you get more listening practice. If you treat the conversation more like that, you should find it a bit less stressful. So listen, encourage them to keep speaking. I see, yes, I see. Summarize at some point. Okay, so what you're saying is blah, blah, blah. Is that right? Show that you've tried to understand what they were talking about. If you're not really getting it, and you think this sounds confusing, ask them nice and politely, sorry Bob, can I just ask you something? Great. And remember, it's important to ask that question first, because that question is just to get their attention. So, can I ask you something? That just gets their attention. Now they're listening to you. If you ask them the question straight away, they might not hear you because they're concentrating on something else. So that, can I ask you something, brings them back into contact with you. Now they're listening to you. Now you can ask them your question. Oh, when you just said blah, 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 did you mean this? You're seeking clarification. Could you clarify what you just said? Because I don't understand that last phrase you used. And remember, we're trying in these conversations to not use too many words just to make sure that we've understood it, because we have too much to remember. We need to be focusing more on listening to what's happening so we get a better understanding of it, and we can use a smaller but more useful vocabulary just to ask helpful questions to get the information you need to make sense of it, and you should find that a bit less stressful. So have a think about that. Don't waste your words. Wait till it's your turn. Minimal vocabulary, but nice and targeted. Less things to remember. Try that, let me know. Déjame saber en los comentarios. But for now, from England, where it's, well, yeah, it's autumnal weather. It's cold, it's raining, but, you know, we expect that. So I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying slightly better weather. But for now, we'll say cheerio.